Welcome everyone. I am here in Sofia, Bulgaria, in the Marinella Hotel, obviously in this throne-like thing. It's quite the place. And we're going to talk today about the subject of EMIs, electronic money institutions. So what is an EMI? An EMI is, it's sort of like a bank. You experience it like a bank. However, they don't actually hold your money, okay? So this is, for example, the ones that you're probably most familiar with are TransferWise, there's one called Bank, there's one called N26, there's like dozens of them. And it's a license that's been provided through the European Union does it, as well as Hong Kong and some other places have it, okay? So the question is, can you trust them? Is your money safe there, okay? And there's a few sides to that. Like, you should legitimately have some concern. You should legitimately be thinking, okay, is my money safe there? Now, granted, you should be thinking that about any bank because obviously it's important that you have your money. But these are kind of adding a layer of risk. What do I mean by that? Well, let's say that back in the day in Cyprus, there's a bank called FBME. And FBME ended up getting taken down as a prime money laundering concern, okay? So let's just imagine, it's not the case, but let's say that it was the case that FBME was the sponsoring bank and then you had an EMI layered on top of it. Well, if that was the case, then you would have two layers of potential risk there, right? You would have the FBME risk, plus you would have the EMI risk. And all EMIs are definitely not all created equally, okay? So, what can we say here? How would we pay attention? I look at this fairly specifically, okay? And I do it based on the geography, the sponsoring bank, and in particular the backers of the EMI, okay? So, for example, I don't think you should be worried at all about your funds in TransferWise. Why is that? Well, TransferWise is very heavily venture-backed. They have a large budget, they have a large market cap, they've got a lot of investment, and so those who are behind them run very reputable organizations. They're not in the business of associating their reputation with scams, okay? Same thing with Revolut. So like banks like Revolut and TransferWise, not in the least bit worried about. There's some in the US that are kind of similar, right? On the flip side, if you look at a bunch of these ones in Lithuania, why are they going to Lithuania? You can just kind of ask yourself this, right? Because, you know, a bunch of these are, say, based out of the UK or something like that, right? UK, Germany, etc. The ones that are based out of Lithuania, it's because it's cheap, okay? So basically, the cheapest place to go from a regulatory standpoint is Lithuania. I think it's like 60 grand or something like that to get set up. And you just have to ask yourself, okay, well, they can't afford the more expensive licenses. They're not willing to go through the greater level of due diligence. Are they really the people who I want to entrust my money to? Okay? And generally speaking, I would say it's more worth investigating. Now, it doesn't mean that there aren't ones that are okay there. And the other thing is, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't because maybe you don't have other options, right? So a lot of people who are using EMIs don't have a lot of other good options. So the question is, first of all, why are you there, right? Maybe you're saying, hey, look, well, people won't accept crypto. We did a video on which banks accept crypto these days, and these guys do, okay? So you're like, okay, well, they're willing to take business that I wouldn't otherwise get. I had lunch with a guy a couple days ago, and he commented on this. He said, hey, look, you know, like, I'm having troubles with an offshore company. That offshore company can't get bank accounts most places. So there's places that I don't really want to bank, but it's the only place that'll accept it. And this is a common scenario today, right? For example, where can you bank with a BVI company, with a Belize company, with a Seychelles company? There's not a lot of options. So you have to choose from some not ideal options in most cases today. That's just the reality of the banking environment, okay? So you'd be like, yeah, if I had the option, okay, I'm gonna go to wherever, HSBC Hong Kong or DBS Singapore or Standard Chartered somewhere or Barclays or, you know, some too big to fail bank in the US if I had the choice. But I don't have the choice, so what is the best option available to me, okay? Now, along that line, I think it's very important to say, don't keep a lot of money there, okay? So I would never keep millions of dollars in pretty much any EMI, with the exception of a few of these very well-backed, venture supported, very legitimate ones. You know, it's like there's a lot of brand behind them, there's a lot of money behind them, there's a lot of, like, your account might get shut down, but it's highly, highly unlikely that there would be some sort of fraud involved, or that they would be using depositor money to pay their bills or something like this, right? That's the big difference. That's the key thing that I think is worth noting. So what's the lessons in there to pay attention to? Well, number one, what are your options, right? You always want to choose the best option available to you. And if you have a lot of good options, then this is probably not the way to go. Assuming that you don't have a lot of good options, then you say, okay, well, what is the next? Well, where is it based, right? Is it a place that people are just all flooding to because the licenses are cheap? Next, who are the backers? Is it very well capitalized by some major institutions or major investors who reputationally have no problems with it? If that's the case, then you're probably okay. And the last piece is, generally, if possible, don't keep a lot of money there. And so this is going to bring the last question, which is, well, what if that's the only place that I can get an account? How do I avoid keeping money there? There's two things. You can pour it into investments, or B, I would recommend putting it into brokerage accounts. You can almost always get a brokerage account quite easily. It's easy to transfer the funds there. It's a first party transfer, and you can easily put the assets into something that's very safe at that point in time, and it's yours, so you can transfer it around from place to place if wanted. So that's my general advice around EMIs, and I think there's some times where they're perfectly good options. That being said, be cautious. If you want some help, if you're not sure what to think about one or another, you can contact us. Happy to help you, and I will look forward to seeing you guys on the next video.